Okay, thanks. Okay, very good morning all. So let's get started with today's topic. So yesterday we learned about EBS volumes. So EBS is basically called Elastic Block Store. Elastic Block Store is uh, it's a SAN on cloud, right? Storage area network on cloud. And Elastic Block Store provides you block devices. It's a block storage volumes that you can provision and attach to EC2 instances. And each block store, each EBS volume is basically availability zone specific, and you can attach it to an EC2 instance, right? And you can select the type of EBS volume that you want to provision based on the performance requirements. So you've got general purpose SSD, which is usually used for most of the workloads. GP2 and GP3 are the two types of general purpose, which provides a better performance versus cost, right? So it gives it's an optimal cost. So that way that's why it's called general purpose. But if you want to use EBS volumes for databases, for hosting databases which are very, very busy and which have high volume, high transaction volume, so then you have to go for IO1 or IO2, where you can decide what is the IOPS that you want to provision for that particular SSD, and the cost of that will also increase proportionately based on the number of IOPS that you provision. Okay, by default for GP2, per GB of storage that you provision, EBS volume that you provision, it is IOPS. But if you look at and based on your benchmarks, their application process or any IO centric operations that you're doing, then you have to carefully assess which one to go about. And GP2 is the only one which is included as part of the free tier. So as long as the this lab exercise is concerned, you can use GP2 only to do your lab exercise and use a plain 8 GB volume so that it does not get charged to your account. Okay, so that's a short summary of EBS. And what we did yesterday was we did an assignment where we provisioned an EC2 instance along with an EBS volume, and we gave and we provisioned another volume and attached it to the EC2 instance, a Linux EC2 instance, using some Linux commands such as to mount. And when we mounted it, we were able to access that second EBS volume. So it's like if you have two hard disks attached to your computer, so the second hard disk is like the second EBS volume, right? Each hard disk basically corresponds to an EBS volume. Okay, so that's what is a summary of what we learned yesterday. So now today, what we'll do is we'll actually learn more about snapshots and AMIs. Okay, so as I said yesterday, when you provision an EC2 instance and when you use an EBS volume, right, and you can actually take a snapshot of the EBS volumes. I'm just going to provision one EC2 instance. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to provision one tag name EC2 snapshots, EBS snapshots. That's the name of this that we're going to give. And I'm going to use my standard public EC2 SG1. Review launch. I'll use my keeper, acknowledge, and say launch instances. Yeah, so let this get launched. So it will be ready in a few seconds. So now, if you see, this will have an EBS volume attached to it, which is the root device. Because anything which contains the operating system is called the root device, right? So that's what is going to read and write from the memory and run processes, right, and things like that. So that's why it's called the root volume. In Windows, C drive is your default root volume. Okay, so now this is running. So let me just go ahead and quickly connect to this, and you see there's one volume that is attached to this. Okay, let me go and I'll just replace the IP address. Yeah, so it's connected. LSBLK. Yeah, so you have one volume, right? XVDA is the volume, which is 8 GB. That is attached to this EC2 instance. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and provision a second volume. Just go here. This is what you would have done yesterday. Add a second volume. Select GP2 only. Don't select anything else. So select only GP2, which is part of the free tier. And I'm going to select 8 GB in the same availability zone, right? So you have to select it from the same availability zone and add tag name is data volume, right? Just going to give data volume and say create volume. Yeah. Yeah. So the data volume is getting created, and we're just going to execute these commands that we learned yesterday. Yeah, so data volume is created and it's in the available state. It's not attached to any EC2 instance. If you see this, right, attached instances, there's nothing. So I'm going to just say actions, attach volume, select the running EC2 instance and leave this default and say attach volume. That's it. So it's attached to the EC2 instance. If I come back and refresh this and select the EC2 instance and go to storage, I will see two volumes attached to it. Right? So you see this, it's two volumes are attached. So let me go back to LSBLK and you see that XVDF is attached, right? So which is a new volume that got attached. So now let's just go ahead and see this, right? So this is basically going to list sudo is the command that you need to use if you need elevated privileges, right? So right now, if you see, there's nothing. It has no file system in it. So we just need to first create a file system. So mkfs is the command to create a file system. So now the file system is created. Again, run sudo file. If you see, then it will show the file system, which file system, and it has formatted it. It has formatted the new drive, which is created. So now we just need to go to root and create a data volume sudo mkdir/data. So you will see that. Go to cd/ and you will see data volume created here. Now we need to mount this new volume in the point of the data, right? /data. So you can just use this to mount. Yes, it's mounted. Now I can go to cd/data and it's available for me to read and write, right? So I'm going to give sudo nano new file 1.txt. Okay, I will say this is a new file created in the data volume of the first EC2 instance, right? So that's the name that I'm going to give. That's the content that I'm going to give. Press Control X, say yes. Yeah, so that this is created. Okay. Okay, so now got it. So now we have something available in the data drive, right? So the data volume, so which is this one. So it has got one single file of about 75. So let's use that. Something called snapshots that you can. So now what is snapshot? A snapshot is basically a mechanism to take a photocopy of the entire volume and store it so that you can bring that photocopy back whenever you want. So it's usually used for backup purposes, right? So you can take a snapshot of the entire volume and store it as a backup. So it can do a show at later point in time, right? So that's what snapshots mean. It's like a Xerox copy, right? So when you take a Xerox copy of some piece of paper, it's a point in time copy of the entire thing. And then you can use that to recreate the document anytime later, right? So that's what. So point in time is important, right? So that's why. What is a point in time? It's just at that point in time, whatever was the contents of that entire volume, it will just take a snapshot of that entire volume. It's like taking a photo. Okay. So you take a snapshot, and the way snapshots work is when you first take one snapshot, and you can also have some sort of incremental snapshots created. So the way AWS optimizes the way it stores the data for the backup is very simple, right? And it's very efficient. It actually does an incremental. Like, for example, I created one file now, right? So first, what it's again at a block level. It's not at a file level, right? It does not know how many files are present inside. It only can know how many sectors are there, how much of data is there in each sector. Okay, at a disk level. So that's why it's at a very low level, right? It's not at a file level. File level is more of a operating system thing, whereas this is at a even much lower level. So so when you create snapshots, right, and you know what, and then you take another snapshot say after 3 hours. So what AWS does is it actually takes an incremental data between now and after 3 hours, and it will only maintain that. But when you restore it, it is a point in time restore. Okay, so when you want to restore the snapshot that you created after 3 hours from now at a later point in time, it will contain the full data plus those 3 hours of data. So that's how the snapshots work, right? And it's a very interesting concept, and they do a lot of algorithm, you know, while they take snapshots, and you know, they use a good amount of intelligence, you know, to do this, and it's all incremental. Like the first snapshot was 10 GB. That was the, so this x-axis is time. Okay, and state 1 is 10 GB. So it's a volume of 10 GB, and then when you take a snapshot, it goes into, okay, by the way, the snapshots are stored in S3 bucket. Okay, S3 is again a storage, right? It's an object storage. You can store any type of object in the S3. Okay, we'll come back to S3 later. For now, remember that when you see this bucket icon, so it means it's an S3 bucket. So what AWS does is it stores it in an S3 bucket, which AWS manages. So because this whole snapshot thing is a managed service, it does not come into your account. Rather, it is managed centrally by AWS in an AWS managed environment. So that way, it is also secure, and obviously it has a lot of checks and balances in terms of who can access the snapshot. A snapshot that belongs to one customer is not inadvertently, you know, leaked to other customers. In fact, all that is taken care of by AWS. That's why it's called a fully managed service. Right? So then it stores it there. So then, say after some time, 4 GB of data gets changed within this 10 GB. Okay, 6 GB does not get changed, whereas 4 GB gets changed. So then what AWS does is it takes an incremental of this only 4 GB. It does not take the entire 10 GB. It only takes an incremental of this 4 GB, and then it stores it as a snapshot B. This is snapshot A, then this is snapshot B, which only stores that 4 GB. Okay, so then when you want to restore this state 2, what AWS does is it basically merges these two and then gives you a final snapshot that has the state, right? So which has a 6 GB and 4 GB, which is the yellow portion, which was changed. So then let's assume another 2 GB got added after some time. Okay, so then what AWS does is it actually takes only the 2 GB as an incremental thing. Okay, and then what it does is when you want to restore the snapshot C, it merges this with the 4 GB snapshot, which is a snapshot B. Then snapshot B gets merged with snapshot A, and finally it gives you the snapshot. Okay, that's how efficient, you know, it does, because you know each time it has to take a snapshot. You may imagine, is AWS going to store 10 GB every time? No, it is not like that, right? In this case, if you see, if it takes a full snapshot every time, then it stores 30 GB of snapshot data, which is an overkill, right? Because it's repeated. But in this case, it only stores first 10 GB, then it stores only the 4 GB, then it stores only the 2 GB. So net, it is only going to store 16 GB of data. Okay, so that way it is optimizing on % of storage on a snapshot, right? So that's the reason they don't charge you for the full for the full 30 GB, they only charge you for the 15 GB of snapshots that is stored because of this algorithm that it uses to store the snapshots. It's very interesting, and in fact, a lot of, I don't know how many of you have storage background, or have learned how storage systems actually work. There's so much of cutting edge technologies in the storage, right? In the area of storage, where you use deduplication, file deduplication, right? So when you use file deduplication, you use it does not so that way, then it means the log of which changed and how many copies of it is present and things like that. Okay, anyways, I'm going to give you this and you can just read more about it. But let's just go back to our thing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go select the volume, select the data volume, and I'm going to take a snapshot by clicking actions, create snapshot. Okay, so here I will say that data volume snapshot 8:50 a.m. correct? 8:50 a.m. Okay, let me just go down, create a snapshot. Yeah, so once you do that, you will see here below volumes, you will see something called snapshots. You will see that snapshot status here. Let me give a name here for this same data volume snap 8:51 a.m. So this, okay. So it's taking the snapshot. Let me just refresh this. It'll take a while, right? It'll take about a few minutes for the snapshot to complete. You can see yeah, it's available. It's completed. The snapshot status is completed. Okay. So now what I can do is I can confidently go ahead and now I have a peace of mind that okay, my data volume is protected and I have a backup of my data volume. So now let's go back to the EC2 instance. And in the EC2 instance, I can basically select the EC by if let's assume by mistake I terminated the EC2 instance. Okay. I've terminated my EC2 instance. Let me terminate it. And also the second volume that is available, I terminated that volume also. Okay, this is the root and this is the data volume, correct? Yeah, it's deleted. So now let me also delete my data volume, the actual data volume, correct? I'll just delete it. Okay, so now the data volume is deleted and I've got some important data present within that and I've deleted it by mistake. Okay, so that's the whole backup restore process is all about, right? You backup because you want to keep a copy of your data so that by mistake, if the data gets deleted or something happens, you still have a copy of the data. So now you can go to snapshots. Now you have the snapshot of that, right? Which has that file in it. We created a small file. So now let's go back. Let's go to instances. Now let me launch a new instance and I want to restore the data back. So let me go launch a new EC2 instance. The same settings, same. Okay, next attach. I'll say name restored data volume is the name that I'm going to give. And to the security group, use the same security group. Public EC2, review and launch instances. Okay, so it's still pending. So let it get into a running state. It has an IP address, a public IP address. If you see, everything has changed. The private IP has changed, the public IP has changed. Everything If you see I got thrown out EC2 instance because it's deleted, it's no more. So let me just go ahead and connect. It's still provisioning. Okay, it's available. So let me just log into that. I will say LSBLK. So it has only one volume in it, right? So now I want to restore the second volume, right? So excuse me. So I want to restore the second volume into my EC2 instance. So now what I do is I will just select this, right? And I'll see the volumes that are there. It has only the root volume, right? So now, okay, what I can do is I can just go here. I can go to snapshots. Okay, I can select the snapshot and I can say actions, create a volume from snapshot. So now snapshot is just a copy, right? I mean, it's not a running volume. It's just a copy that is stored somewhere. So now you have to make it running first, right? So you go create a volume from snapshot, then do that. So general purpose SSD, same thing. Don't do anything. So just say name data volume restored and say create volume. Okay, so now if you go to volumes, you will see that the data volume restored is available. Okay, it's restored and it's available, but now you have to attach it to your EC2 instance, right? So then click on actions, attach volume to the EC2 instance that is running. Just leave it default, say attach volume. Okay, go back to EC2 instances, refresh this and go here, select it, select the storage. You will see that two volumes are attached. So SDF is the data volume which got attached, right? So now let's go back. Let's do LSBLK. Yeah, it's available, but now you have to mount it, right? I mean, the volume is available. Now you have to mount it. So now when you mount it, see, you can't do all of this, right? You can't format the file system. If you do it, then all the data that is present in it will be lost. Okay, you shouldn't do that. You should only do steps 12 and 13, which is create a new data. This thing. Okay. In the meantime, you can also do this, right? You can just check what is the file system type for /xpdf. If you see, it's already a file system which is formatted, right? It's not a raw file system any longer, right? Unlike how when we create a new volume from the console, it's a raw file system, and then we format it using some file system protocol, right? So in this case, it's already a file system which is there. So remember, if you again go and execute this, you will end up deleting that entire data that is present there. So you should skip this step and go to sudo mkdir/data. Okay, so now just mount. Yeah, so it's mounted. So now let's just go here and you will see ls-l. So you will see data present here, right? So the data is present here and the volume is mounted. So now let's go to data and say ls-l. Yeah, you see this? The file that we created earlier in the previous EC2 instance when we took the snapshot and then we took the snapshot, right? So that file is present. So I can just do nano new file.txt. See? The same contents is available. This is the new file created in the data volume of the first EC2 instance. Okay, and what you can also do is, assuming, there's some making updates to this file from the second EC2 instance. Okay, save it. It's all available, right? So now you can take another snapshot of this guy, correct? You can just go to the volumes and the volume is running, right? So this is the data volume restored. So now what you can do is you can just take a new snapshot of this saying data volume snap 9 a.m. correct? So let's just give me, let me just give 9 a.m. Add name, I'll just keep the name, same name here. Name tag, same thing. Just go create the volume. Yeah, sorry, create the snapshot. Snapshot is created. If you go to snapshots, yeah, if you go to snapshots, it's available. So see, I've created another snapshot called my name snapshot. Okay. So, and then what you can do is you can actually go ahead and restore the snapshot also. You can restore the snapshot in a third EC2 instance, or you can just restore this in the same EC2 instance. I can do that. I'll just go create volume from snapshot. I will say name data volume restored 9 AM, right? Just give the name to that. I'll say create volume. Okay, and then I'll go to volumes. If you see data volume restored 9 AM is present. Okay, and it's available, right? If you see it's available, I can just go to actions, attach volume, attach it to this running EC2 instance. Now, if you see there's a new drive letter which is added, volume letter. So just attach it. Yeah, just say running, click on storage. If you see, these are 3 volumes that are attached. So I can just go back to my EC2 instance and say lsblk. If you see, there's a new which is attached, right? So it's just this one. So now what I can do is I can just simply go ahead and create a new this thing sudo mkdir / data1. Okay, so cd slash ls-l. So if you see, data is also there, data1 is also there. Now let's mount the new volume, right? lsblk, and then go back to mount. Just you can press up arrow and you will get that mount. So this you have to. This is xvdg, and it is /data1. Wrong is first step. Okay, one second. xvdg. Yeah, xvdg is fine. Sudo mount /dev/xvdg/data1. What does it say? What does it say? Wrong FS type, bad option, bad super block. You don't need to format it. Okay, probably is it still restoring? Is that why this is corrupted? No, it's restored fully, available 100%. And the volume is also available, right? Yeah, it's available. Okay, so probably what I did was I didn't wait for the snapshot to be complete, I believe. I think some consistency error would have come because it says missing code page or helper program or other. Okay, that's okay. But anyways, I mean, it was just an iterative process. So now what you can do is you can use the snapshot, store the snapshot, and keep using this. Okay, so that's basically the snapshot. And now let me just go back to my EC2 instance and terminate my EC2 instance. Terminate instance. Right, so I'll just go and click on terminate. So it's getting terminated, shutting down. And if I go to volumes, get volumes which were mounted will not get deleted. So you have to clean it up. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So let's just wait. Yeah, it's all gone. So I can select these 2 volumes. I can say actions, delete volume, and it'll ask for a confirmation. Just say type delete in the field. It's just an additional check, right? And then you can go to snapshots. Snapshots are going to be available, right? Even if you delete the volume, snapshot doesn't get deleted because these 2 are like isolated. They're no longer. Yeah, I can just delete the snapshot as well. It's deleting the shots. Okay, so yeah, snapshot is also deleted. So everything is cleaned up now. Okay, now that's the snapshot concept. And also what we can do is there's something called a lifecycle manager where you can create a snapshot policy that says, yeah, EBS snapshot policy to select this. Say next step. So now you can select a volume or you can select a particular instance. And also you can, create short equal to this, right? And then you can use and you can create a new lifecycle policy that says a new lifecycle policy backup, right? So now what you can do is you can forget about IAM role for now and say next. Okay, so snapshot is yes, that's the tag that we are going to identify. So now if you see, you can create a new schedule that says daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, right? Or a cron. How many of you know what a cron is? CRON. Yeah, cron expressions, right? Yep.
It's an already scheduled job at
It's a
particular time.
scheduled job.
Yeah.
Correct, correct. It's a command line utility in Linux or Unix, which acts like a scheduler, right? I mean, like you have an alarm in your mobile, right? Wake me up at 5:30 a.m. in the morning, so something like this, right? So it will wake up and then it will execute whatever you ask it to execute. That's the cron, and there's a special expression that cron has. This is sort of what it looks like. But anyways, I will leave it to you to learn how a cron works. So now here you can actually decide, daily frequency, and you can say every 1 hour or every 2 hours or every 3 hours, right? You can usually take at every 3 hours, and you can say start at 9 UTC. And retention is you can say what it will do is every 3 hours it will keep taking a snapshot of that particular EBS volume. Okay, every 3 hours it will keep taking a snapshot. But you also have to say that how many snapshots or what is the age of snapshots that you want to retain, right? Because you ideally don't want to retain like the entire history because you're going to get charged unnecessarily for the old ones also. So rather, you maintain the history of about last say 30 days. It's the last 1 month, 30 days after creation. You can give weeks, months, and years. If certain banks are there, right? What they do is they actually set for about say 1 year after creation. They store it for 1 year. Usually it's like 30 days. Right? So they store it for 30 days. And after when the age becomes 31st day, it will just go ahead and automatically delete it and it will maintain only the last 30 days of snapshot backup. Yeah, review policy and then just say create policy. Yeah, so it's policy is created, and if you review the policy, you have snapshot. Okay, and this name. We can use a key value, right? How many of you know what a key value pair? Key value pair is just it has a key and it has a value associated with it, right? So now, if it has this tag associated with it, so then this policy will be applicable. And what it does, it takes a snapshot of that particular EBS volume, which has the snapshot equal to S tag, starting at 9 UTC and every 3 hours, and it will retain those snapshots for 30 days. So that way it's an automated backup, right? You don't have to manually go take a backup of your snapshot, do all of that gymnastics, right? It's like a free thing, right? And by the way, this whole lifecycle manager itself is free, right? I mean, to run this, there's no charge, but storing the snapshot is charged. Okay, that's where you have to remember. Okay, so now let me just leave it like this, okay, and then come back. So that's what the snapshots is all about, right? I mean, there's also a lab that I want you to do, right? That I want to Sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, actually, the snapshot only volume based or the entire EC2 based?
No, sorry, your voice, there's a lot of echo coming. Can you please repeat your question?
The snapshot only volume based or entire EC2 based?
See, you can also take an entire EC2 based as well, but ultimately at the end of the day, it takes it at a volume level. You can also take a complete EC2 instance, right? If you go to snapshots, okay, if you go to the EC2 instance, right, and you select that particular EC2 instance, if you go to actions, images and templates, right? You can also take a snapshot of the entire EC2 instance, which means that how many ever volumes that are present in the EC2 instance, everything is taken at one shot. That is also possible.
Okay. Yeah, because of sometimes we have needed entire EC2 instance, no? So we restore the entire EC2 instance. That is the asking.
Correct. No, it's possible. Good question. That's possible. Okay, but I'm going to introduce you to a new concept called AMI. Okay, AMI is called Amazon Machine Image, right? Which is also another way to take a full image of your entire EC2 instance or specific volumes in the EC2 instance and bring the entire EC2 instance back. So in this case, for snapshot, it's at a volume level, right? So I need to have I need to provision it manually, and then I have too much of work. Instead, you can take a EC2 instance, create a full image of volume. It's a snapshot. But when you take a photocopy of that entire EC2 instance, then it becomes an AMI. Okay, where you can just bring back the whole EC2 instance with a click of few buttons. Okay, that's where AMIs will be helpful. But any questions on snapshot so far before I jump into AMI? And I've given you this assignment for today. You can do this, but anyways, we'll complete AMIs also today. Okay, any questions on snapshots? Or I'm going to move to AMIs. Okay, got it. So I'll give you this link for snapshots. Okay, just read this link. Alrighty, so let's go back. AWS AMI. Yeah, AMI is called Amazon Machine Image, right? Okay. So let me just go here. Let's quickly go over the AMI. Okay, so now you have an EC2 instance, okay? Usually what happens is when you run EC2 instances, you will set up the EC2 instance, right? I mean, you will install the application, you will make configurations to your application. It's a lot of job, it's a lot of work, correct? So now what happens is when you create an EC2 instance, like the way you take a snapshot of the entire DBS volume, there's also a way to take a full snapshot of your entire EC2 instance, which means that the whole operating system, the configurations, the applications that are running in the root volume and everything, all the data that is available, everything is taken as a backup. So by mistake, if your EC2 instance gets deleted, right? And you have made a lot of configurations to your operating system, correct? Such as hardening the OS, installing the applications, configuring the applications. You will lose all of that, right? Because they're all part of the root volume, right? And also the other things such as, the other metadata that you have, right? All of that will go away. So instead, slightly one level higher from EBS snapshot, you're taking the AMI of a snapshot of the entire EC2 instance, right? So, and then you can easily bring that EC2 instance back. Okay, so now if you see, this is the EC2 instance which is running. And when you take an AMI of the EC2 instance, to include, you can include everything, which will have OS, Amazon, Linux. It It will have some server, some application running hello world and things like that. So all those will be available as part of your EC2 instance. So now if you see, this is an example of how this whole snapshotting works, right? I mean, we saw that earlier. So now let's go back. What I'm going to do is, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my EC2. Sorry, let's quickly go over the definition of Amazon Machine Image. In AMI, it's called Amazon Machine Image, right? Provides the information required to launch an instance. It has all the information required to launch an instance. You can't provision an EC2 instance without using an AMI, right? Even when you go to EC2 console and launch an instance, you will see the list of standard AMIs that are available on both Linux and Windows. All these are AMIs actually. It will have an AMI ID, but these AMIs are managed and maintained by Amazon AWS themselves. And you can also use your own AMIs, and you can create your own AMIs, which will come up in this My AMIs tab. Okay, and so remember, you won't be able to provision an EC2 instance without an AMI. So that's very clear. You must specify an AMI when you launch an instance. You can launch multiple instances from a single AMI when you need multiple instances with the same configuration, right? You can just give a count of say 10 instances I want, right? It will just create a clone of those 10 AMIs as 10 running instances. AMI is just an image, right? It's not running, like similar to Snapshot, right? Snapshot is just a image copy and it's not running as such. It's not attached to any compute. So similarly, AMI is just a image which gets stored, right? But unless and until you create a new EC2 instance out of that AMI, this AMI is of no use, right? I mean, you won't be able to log into that AMI by itself, right? So that's why it's like a template, correct? I mean, you have templates, correct? I mean, you have Word templates, Excel templates. So it's just a template, and unless and until you create a new document out of the template, it's of no use, right? It's very similar like that. So AMI includes the following. It has one or more EBS snapshots, right? A template for the root volume and the instance, which contains an operating system, app server, and application. It launches permissions that control which AWS accounts can use the AMI. And it has a block device mapping that specifies the volumes attached to the instance when it is launched. Okay. So now what you can do is you can, when you have an AMI, the AMI is also stored in a S3 bucket, and which is managed by and then it becomes actual instance. But till that point in time, it is just an AMI. Okay, so now let me back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new AMI. Okay, using an existing EC2 instance, existing AMI. So if you see, I'm going to use this Amazon Linux 2, which is also an AMI, which is managed by AWS. Select that, select e2.micro, configure instance details, just leave all of this as is. I want to provision this in a public subnet, leave the the root volume as it is, name EC2 instance 1. Next, configure security group, just use the same security group. C1. Next, review launch, acknowledge, and launch. Okay, so this is like running. So got a public IP address. Let me just grab that. Just give me a second. The EC2 instance is ready. Let me just pull back my screen. Okay, so the EC2 instance is ready. It's running. Okay, let me just grab the public IP address and log into the EC2 instance. Okay, I'm picked out of the previous connection. Let me just log into this. See, I could have used one single EC2 instance every time. Okay, the reason I'm not doing that is I'm just creating this multiple EC2 instances so that each time, it kind of revision for all of you, right? So that's the reason. So even if you missed noting down something while I created an EC2 instance, I'm just doing it like at least today I would have done 3 to 4 times, correct? So that's the reason. Okay, so now this is running. So EC2 instance is running. I'm like inside the EC2 instance. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to elevate myself to sudo su. So when you say sudo su, I'm the super user, right? So su is super user and root, right? I'm logged in as root now. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a few quick things, okay, which I've already mentioned in the assignment for today. So in Linux instances, especially the one which uses a Red Hat flavor, right? And CentOS flavor, you use sudo yum update, right? So when you say sudo yum update, it will update all the packages. It will keep the operating system at the latest levels, right? So and then install HTTPD. HTTPD is a web server. It's an Apache server. It's an Apache web server. I'm going to install that Apache web server, right? Again, what is a web server? A web server is nothing but the one which serves the web pages and web application, right? So Apache web server, right? So yeah, this is the Apache HTTP server, right? You can just read through this. It's part of the open source Apache project, which has an Apache license. Okay, and it's kind of very famously used Apache web server. You can just quickly, install Apache web server and run an application, a web page on top of it, right? Okay, so now it's installed. The Apache web server is installed now. So what I'm going to do is to just go ahead and start that command with the sudo service HTTPD. So don't worry, all of this is provided in the assignment. You can just follow these steps, right? If you want to read more about it, you can read. Anyways, I'm going to do. So now sudo service HTTPD start, right? Which means that you have to start that service also. It's a service which is starting. Which if you see, it's running. When you say status, it says it's running, active and running. HTTPD server is running. Okay. Okay. So now, if you go to browser and use http:// the public IP address of your EC2 instance. Let's see what happens. Okay, let me just grab my public IP address and I'll open a browser and I'll say http:// the public IP address. Okay, it will time out. It's because I'm trying to access what is HTTP. Can somebody say what is the port number for HTTP?
80.
8443.
HTTPS is 8.
Now let's the security group
80, sir.
443.
443.
Yeah. So now I have to go to my security group of the EC2 instance, right? So because this is where I'm running my web server, correct? I'll go to my security group and see it's not allowing port 80, right? That is the reason why it's not able to access the web page. So now if I go here, the security group port 80. I'm going to basically allow the Okay, so now let me just go to inbound rules and say edit inbound rules and
Sir, voice is breaking, sir.
HTTP from 000. Oh, it's breaking. Is it better now?
Yes, sir, no better.
Okay, sorry, but I think my internet connection is a bit patchy. Okay, so now if you see, this is where it's actually, I'm adding a new rule that says from anywhere in the internet, I'll be able to access the server on port 80. Okay, I'll just save this rules. So it is saved. Got it. So now see, immediately you got the test page of Apache web server. The moment I added the security group, immediately it came up. Okay. So now I can just refresh this. I will see that it is able to access. Now this test page is running within this Linux instance, right? On the HTTP status, right? So if you see the HTTPD status is running, okay, and this test page is running there, okay, already. So now let's go back, and what we can do is we're going to add a custom welcome page, right? Hello world welcome page to my HTTPD web server. So all that you need to go is you have to go to /where www/html. And when I went through the Linux basics, I just gave you some standard folder structures that Linux has, correct? Which is one of them is /var, right? Which is where a lot of application related configurations and files are stored, var, right? So now if you go back and you just go to cd/var www and html, so you will see that it has currently nothing. Okay, so now let me just create a nano index.html. Okay, because that's going to be my file that will get served, right? Either VI or nano, right? It can either be use nano also. Those of you who are familiar with VI, you can use VI or you can use nano. You say sudo nano index.html, and you can just create the small HTML, right? I'm not sure how many of you know HTML h1 hello RPL champs /h1/HTML. It's a simple HTML that just prints hello RPL champs, correct? I'm just going to save this and say yes, it's created, right? So now if you see, it's created. So now if I go and refresh my test page, you will see hello RPL champs instead of test page, because data in this HTML. Okay, the moment I create that, you will see that this index.html is the one which is actually going to take the precedence and start serving the web page from there. Okay, perfect, sounds good. So now what we'll do is, if you see, it's actually created. So now let's go back to EC2 instance. So now let's assume my use case is I have this running EC2 instance where I have hosted a small website on Apache web server which says hello RPL champs, right? So now I want to protect this EC2 instance. In case if I lose this EC2 instance, I should be having some mechanism to bring this EC2 instance back. So that's where you select that running EC2 instance and go to actions, and go to image and templates, and just create an image out of it. So now here you can give a name for that image, right? You can give a name as my web server image, AMI. So eventually what we are doing is you're actually creating an AMI. Image also means AMI. Okay, so then you can just give a description to this. I'll just use the same description for this. Okay, and you have to also select this no reboot, right? If you don't enable this, the EC2 instance will get rebooted and you will have some sort of outage. But if you want, you can uncheck this also. During the image creation process, your EC2 instance will get rebooted, but I don't want that to happen. So now I will just select it, and here, if you see, it has all the volumes. It will list all the volumes that are available in my EC2 instance. So right now I have only one volume. I can just go ahead and this is the default root volume. So by default, a root volume you won't be able to exclude from the list. But when you have a second volume attached to the EC2 instance, now you'll be able to select whether you want to use that volume as part of your image or not. Whether you want to, when your AMI is taken, should that data volume also be included or not is something that you can choose. Okay. So for now, I'm just going to leave it as this. And here tags are there. So tag image and snapshots together. Just add a tag. I will say name. Use the same my web server image AMI. Let's go to the image. Okay, so it's going to reach and give me a confirmation saying that the image is okay. So now if you see, it says successfully created AMI. Now where do you see the AMIs? You can come down and under images you have AMIs. Click that, and you will see this, right? Own.
Sir, your voice is breaking, sir.
share. Okay, just give me a second. Let me shift my internet connection. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Is it better? Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, so now, so the AMI is created now, and you can also see different types of AMIs which is owned by me, and there can be a private image, there can be public image, and I can also share this AMI with someone else, right? I can just make it edit AMI permissions, right? I can make it a public AMI. Anyone and everyone will be able to see this AMI. But usually, before you do that, you have to ensure that you're not leaking any of your information, right? So your confidential information. So anyways, the AMI is now created. Okay, now what does the AMI consists of? It consists of a root device alone, right? And it has dev/xvda, and it's still creating, right? It's still creating. Actually, you have to wait for some time before the AMI gets created. Okay, let's see the status of it. Okay, it's available now, right? It's created. So the AMI is available. So now let's go back and let's assume I lost my EC2 instance, unfortunately. Okay, when I lose my EC2 instance, my web page will also not be servable, correct? Because it's lost, right? So this IP address is gone and that entire EC2 instance is gone. So now if I refresh, you will see it won't be able to, it will time out after some time. So I'm having an outage. This is called an outage situation. So where it's gone. So now what I'll do is so that EC2 instance is gone and all the associated volumes, everything is gone. I don't have anything. Right? So this will also go away in a while. It's gone. Okay. So now I want to bring back my EC2 instance. How do I bring back? Okay. So now go to AMI. I know that I created an AMI out of my EC2 instance, which has my volume, root volume or additional data volumes. And whatever was the snapshot at that point in time, it's all available, including the HTTPD which was running. Okay, so now I can select my AMI and say launch instance from image. When I say launch instance from image, it will straight away take you to this page where you're actually, you've chosen that AMI, and then use t2.micro, use the same settings. Next, add tags, name, restored web server, EC2. Next, configure security group, choose the same security group. You don't have to, choose the other ones. Review on launch, then acknowledge and say launch. Okay, cool. So it's launched. So let's wait for this to come back. You see, so there are a couple of things that you need to note. If you select that and come down, right, you can see which AMI this got provisioned from. Okay. If you see, this is the AMI from which this instance got instantiated. So this is my web server image AMI that I created earlier. Okay, so let's just let it come back into a running state. So now, whichever point I lost my EC2 instance, right? It's actually going to come back to that point, which means that my web server was actually running. Okay, and so now what I can do is I can just go back. So now, since I brought this whole EC2 instance back, probably the web server would have stopped, right? Because I've not set it to run automatically, right? I mean, if you want, you can actually set a web server to run automatically. But now, if I actually go and browse my EC2 instance, it may not have it may not be running the EC2 instance or the web server. Okay, so now let me go back and let me grab the public IP address. Let me go to PuTTY. Okay, this session is killed. Let me just go to new tab. Use my new IP address. Say yes. Sudo su. And I can check the status of my web server which is running by giving this command sudo service HTTPD status. So it's not running, right? If you see, it's inactive, it's dead, right? So because my EC2 instance was terminated. So now I need to just start it. Just start it. Yeah, so now it's running. So you can also, when the operating system starts, you can set your HTTPD service to be running automatically, right? Like how you do it in Windows. You can also do that so that you don't even have to do this additional step, right? So now if I go back, see now if you see it timed out, right? Because the server is gone. So now let me just go ahead and replace it with a new IP address. You see, the new IP address is having hello RPL chance, right? Which we created in the old server, and we took an AMI out of it, and then we brought a new EC2 instance out of that AMI, which has all the steps and all the configurations that are present there. Okay, so that's where AMIs are very, very important. And I've given all the steps out here as to how you want to do. And then more importantly, towards the end of it, we should be able to clean up the whole thing. So let me just go do the cleanup, right? First thing, I'm going to delete my EC2 instance. Terminate. Okay. Second thing that I want to do is I want to go to volumes and see if there are any volumes that are still, unattached to an EC2 instance, because you will incur additional cost. Now this is in use, this will go away. This is the root volume. This will go away once the EC2 gets deleted. But if there are additional volumes, which are the data volumes, which do not get deleted automatically when you delete an EC2 instance, you have to pay special attention to those and delete those. Okay, so now if you see, this is gone. You have to go check the snapshots and look at these snapshots. Okay, now this snapshot was created automatically while you took an AMI. Okay, so now what you can do is you can go to the AMIs and select this AMI, select actions, and say deregister AMI and say deregister. So it's deleted. The AMI is deleted, and snapshot of that associated AMI is still lying. So you have to select that and actions and delete snapshot. That's it. Now, bravo, all the resources are cleaned up, right? And we have learned what we wanted to learn, and we have also cleaned up everything. So if I go back and refresh this, this will not serve my web page any longer because it's gone. Okay, so these are the two assignments that I want all of you to do today. The first assignment is for snapshots. Complete this whole thing. I've given you step by step what needs to be done. Second assignment is, and then clean up the snapshots, then come to AMI. Okay, snapshot lifecycle manager, you can just read about it, right? You don't have to do it, right? You can just read about it. Elastic network interface and elastic IP is something that we will cover tomorrow because it's already overloaded, I believe, with the snapshots and AMIs. So please complete these two. ENI and elastic IP is something that we will do tomorrow. So I'm not going to overload you with these so that I don't want you to struggle completing your assignments. Right? So I'm just going to delete that and use these. And I'm sure this is a good amount of work for you to do today, complete today, and come back. If there are any clarifications or doubts that you have. And tomorrow we will quickly cover the elastic IP and elastic network interface, which means that in the EC2, right? So when you want to create an EC2, all the tabs that you see here, right? I mean, we have covered AMI today, which is this. So then we have covered this in the first class itself, in the first session itself, as to what these each type means. And the third, we have covered VPC, right? So VPC was our foundation, VPC subnet. This was our foundation. And those are the bare minimum things that you need to be aware. So then we have covered storage, right? In yesterday's and today's class, we have covered the storage. Then we have covered tags, and we have covered security group, and we have covered the keys as well, right? So when you wanted to use a key, we've also covered that key. So there's not anything which is left open-ended in the EC2. So what we'll do is we'll cover the we'll cover the network interface tomorrow, right? So this is one key thing that I want all of you to learn: network interface and elastic IPs, right? So these are the two things that I want you to learn tomorrow, so that EC2 is done, right? So once the EC2 is complete, so then we can shift to our next topic of S3. Okay, but it's quite important that you understand ENIs and EAPs as well, elastic IPs as well. So I'll cover those two in tomorrow's session. Okay, got it. Any questions, any doubts, clarifications, please feel free. I'm going to share today's assignment here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Sorry?
Thank you so much.
Okay, sure, no problem. Okay, I've shared the assignment for today in the chat window. Okay, just confirm if you are able to download it. So just a quick thing, right? I mean, are you kind of able to get a grasp of what we're doing, right? I hope there's no major gap, right? In terms of, I mean, you're not feeling this like a Greek or Hebrew, correct? You're this is something that you're able to grasp and you're able to kind of live with, correct? If you feel that, I mean, this is some of you feel that, you know, it's really going over your heads and you're not able to get a sense of, you're not seeing the traction, please feel free to reach out to your mentors, right? And let them know about it, and we will help you, right? We are here at the end of the day to help you, right? But all that we want you to do now is to make use of the situation, right? And ensure that you are able to get maximum out of it, right? I mean, we are trying to do our 100% best, right? On a best effort case basis, right? So, but another 100% should come from you. It's only then it becomes 200%. Okay, so from that perspective, I mean, it's important that you get a complete sense of what we're trying to do here, right? Unless and until you get that, sense of satisfaction, you won't be motivated, right? So you have to come out, speak out if you're not able to understand things. I mean, you're attending these classes, and some of you ask a few questions, right? So some of you, I see a few people, I mean, ask questions, right? So the rest of you are silent for most of the time, right? I mean, I want you to, be more interactive, right? So only then I'll also enjoy this whole thing, right? I mean, I don't want this to be a monologue. I want this to be a dialogue, right? I mean, so please ensure that, you ask questions, even if it is a simple question. I wouldn't call it stupid. No question in the world is stupid question. Okay, it again boils down to the level of understanding that we have got, right? So don't think that, I mean, if you're asking a question, will you be seen as a stupid person? No, please don't get into that mindset. I mean, be vocal as much as possible, because at the end of the day, we are here to not just impart only the technical knowledge to you, right? But at the same time, we also want you to learn how to learn, right? So that's the most important thing, right? You have to learn how to learn, right? Because learning is a continuous evolution, right? I mean, we keep learning, and even today, like after about 22 years of industry experience that I have, I mean, I devote good amount of time in a week, right? At least about 6 to 8 hours in a week to learn new things and try out new things, and experiment new things, right? So that's the only thing that you'll have to ensure, all of the senior people that you see here, right? All the mentors and all that, all of those people, who have coordinated this. I mean, they also do this on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, right? So that's the only secret sauce to be successful in your careers, right? So now you're no longer in colleges, right? So you have stepped out of the colleges, and now you have to get introduced to the to your career paths, right? You have to, I'm sure a lot of you will get step into corporate, right? And you'll have to learn, how to, have that eye for details, right? And look for, important things from around and learn things, correct? Because, one important thing is that, I mean, you either learn it the hard way or you learn it the smart way, right? I mean, the choice is yours at the end of the day. If you want to learn it the hard way, you're absolutely okay, right? Because if you learn it the hard way, you will also be able to empathize with your learning process. But at the same time, not always, you'll have to learn it the hard way, right? You can learn it the smart way. You learn it from other people, right? And then, you use that as a foundation, right? To kind of base your career on, and then start learning on top of it. Right? So now what we are trying to do is we want you to be smart, right? And learn it. And also at this point in time, you'll also have to do hard work, right? I mean, these are not easy to digest concepts, right? So these are very difficult concepts, and you will have to spend time. You'll have to devote the time. As I said, you have to put in 100% of your effort, right? Apart from whatever 100% of the effort that we are putting out here, right? So from that standpoint, it is important that you ask questions. You be very vocal, right? So because tomorrow in interviews, when you go attend an interview, if only the interviewer is asking questions and you're just simply responding back to interviewer, then you're not going to impress him or her, right? You will have to get into an interactive conversation with the interviewer, right? So now when an interviewer asks you a question, you can ask a couple of follow-up questions, right? You can say, I understood your question, but I also have a couple of follow-up questions. Is this what you want me to explain? See, that makes the whole conversation a lot more, fruitful and a lot more interesting. Right? If it is just one-way conversation, then the interviewer will feel that this guy is just boring, and they'll not hire you. Right? So now we are giving you an opportunity, right now to bring out that ability in you. Right? So now you'll have to make use of this opportunity. I see only 3 or 4 people in this entire session speak all the time and ask questions. Okay, I mean the rest of you are almost mum all the time. Maybe I'm not part of the breakout rooms, right? And I'm not able to interact with you one-on-one, but I'm sure you're doing all of that with your respective mentors. But I want all of you to show that same level of enthusiasm during this session as well, right? So that way it becomes, I mean, you will kind of come out of your shell and you will actually get to the next level. Okay. Anyways, I mean, I just wanted to kind of share what I felt based on the last couple of weeks of this whole course. But I'm sure a lot of you will come out and you will be able to be more expressive and be and then you'll be able to articulate things well. And also down the line, there are a lot of quiz programs that we're going to have, right? And which will kind of be very, very interesting. And also what I'm planning to do is to have a few of you to come and present and take a small session on something to the rest of the team. Okay. So let's see, how many of you are bold enough to come pick up a topic, prepare some content around the topic and give a quick 15-minute, 20-minute primer to the entire team, entire batch. Okay. So we are going to do all of that, right? So, so tell your friends who are missing these classes. I see that, the participation is now probably less than 70. Okay. Tell your friends, who are missing this, tell them that, they're missing something for their lifetime, and ask them to persuade them to come back.
Sir, I just have a query. In EBS, can we increase the volume on the fly?
Yes, you can. You can just resize
For
the
example,
volume.
the same volume.
Same
I don't
volume,
want to add a new volume. If I increase the volume size to 10 GB to 20 GB, so without restarting my instance or without this, automatically it will be reflected in the OS?
Okay, it again depends on the operating system that you are using. So, but usually operating systems, what they do is, it will get reflected on the operating system when you do an lsblk command. If you use Linux, that additional 10 GB will reflect in the size when you do an lsblk for that respective volume. But you'll have to run certain commands to make use of that, claim that additional 10 GB. There are a couple of commands, very simple commands that are available.
So I need to again extend the underlying file system also again.
Yes, you have to extend the file system, but you don't have to format the file system. You just need to extend it. So it will be seamless. You will not, cause any outage or disruption to what you're running in that.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe what you can do is, why don't you try this out? Okay. SB26, right? Okay. So
Okay.
why don't you just try this out? Come up with a one pager, like the way I'm giving you assignments, right? Come up with a one pager, step-by-step instructions of how this needs to be done and present it to the class. Sometime,
Sure.
say, maybe over the weekend, or maybe you can do it on Monday. Okay. Take your time over the weekend, come up with one single pager, right, and present it to the entire, and you demo it from your account.
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I think we're at the top of the hour. So let's all go back, right, and let's kind of derive more and more energy out of these, right? I mean, we are learning at the end of the day, right? I'm also learning along with you. Okay, so it's not that you're only learning it alone, right? All of us, all the people, mentors, all of us are learning along with you. So let us make this learning more fun, more exciting, right? And so just go back today, grasp these concepts, okay, and watch these videos. I mean, if you are not able to understand certain things, and be very vocal about it, that if you are not able to understand, come out and tell your mentors that you're not able to understand, complete your assignments, and there's a lot more exciting things that we're going to learn over the next few weeks. Okay, and we're also going to do projects, end-to-end projects, right? So those are simple, but very vast projects. You're going to do those projects, and which will help you long way. Okay, so with that, I will just take leave here, and I've given you the assignment. Just do these two assignments for today, and tomorrow we'll pick up a new topic, and then we'll complete EC2 logically by tomorrow, and we are going to get into S3 from Monday onwards. It will be a totally different ball game, S3 and few other services, right? And it'll be quite interesting. So we'll start with that from Monday, but tomorrow let's try to wrap it up. Okay, so please get into your breakout rooms as and when they are ready. And thanks for your patience. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Okay, thank you so much and have a great day. Thanks, mentors. Thanks, Aikishna. Have a great day, Sairam.
Thank you, sir.
Sairam, thank you so much.
Sairam, thank you.
Guys,
Prasanna sir, you're there?
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah, maybe Chris and Prasanna sir, a quick request would be is because we've actually done almost like 2 full weeks of the entire setting up of EC2 as such. During these hands-on experience standpoint, students actually have maybe a lot of queries in the sense on the port number to be copied, which were to be updated. So that type of, maybe next week, one day, can we actually dedicate only to those doubt clarifications?
Sure, we can do that, brother. So maybe what we can do is tomorrow, once we are complete with the Elastic IP and ENI, I mean, it won't take more than 20 minutes. The rest of the 1 hour, we can dedicate it for this.
Correct. So that all groups would actually bring up their challenges on hands-on what they're actually facing. So that it will be useful for even other groups to listen together. Yeah, let's do that.
No, absolutely. Totally agree with you. Thanks for that. So that, we bring all the groups together and, address their concerns. Yeah, good idea. Thanks. Sure, we'll do that tomorrow then.
So we're doing that tomorrow? Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Yes, we'll do that tomorrow. Sure. I just need about 20 minutes to, explain the concepts of ENI and EIP. After that, I think we can get into this.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
A quick request to students, please persuade your batchmates or your teammates to join back, right? And tell them, tomorrow we are going to do a full clarification, and anything that they must be stuck with, we'll clarify them tomorrow. Please bring them back if they are missing it.
Thank you, Anna, for that motivation as well. Guys, so I hope you all head to Prasanna. So, just stay tuned. Do not try to miss any classes for the rest of the course. And before we get into breakout rooms, I have 2 quick things to, update you guys. Mentors, please do check and, let students check their billing accounts, if they are by mistakenly not able to terminate services that has been used throughout last 2 weeks. So just keep an eye on your billing because we faced a similar situation last time. After a couple of weeks, one student wasn't aware to terminate the services, and he got billed for it, and we were able to get it reimbursed, but just giving a heads up to check your billing accounts oftenly, at least once in a week. And mentors give that heads up every time we end the class. And then the second thing would be we are merging couple breakout rooms to room number 3 just for today and tomorrow, as we did yesterday. And ma'am Sunita will help you guys out with any technical questions that you may have. I hope it is clear, and let's get into breakout room now, guys.